every time you cast somebody and you know that you're casting them to die, it's like, oh man, I know I'm gonna fall in love with working with you.
Got a couple of spoilery questions. Going to try not to reveal anything too big, but definitely spoilery. So if anybody's watching this, quit now, watch the movie, come back and finish the interview. But it was a bold move to bring Tatum back to life as Ghostface in this one. And I was just wondering, why did you guys do that?
We just didn't think that garage door was, really.
No.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was a big swing, and you landed it.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
I do have a Ghostface question. I do have a question about the casting and audition process for Ghostface when it comes to that as compared to when you're seeing someone who's going to play a character that's a victim. Like, how do you go about getting that performance, like seeing what that performance is going to be? Because at the end, Ghostface always has this mania about them that was not previously understood in the character. Yeah. And so I'm curious, like, how you find out who's going to be able to deliver that.
It's actually really fun. We have, you cast everybody for the role they're playing for 85% of the movie, and who's the best character, who's the best actor for that role. And then we have everybody read Ghostface sides. So everybody does a Ghostface audition, so that none of them know if they're auditioning for Ghostface, if they are or they aren't. There's like plausible deniability, basically, because everybody reads it. So it's really, really fun, because sometimes you're doing it and it feels a little mean, because you're like, I know this person isn't going to be Ghostface, but we have to get this ruse. And I got to say, some of the characters or the actors who did not play Ghostface gave fantastic Ghostface reads.
Would have been good Ghostfaces.
Really great. And so, there's a little bit of like, oh man, maybe like down the road they could. It's a fun process.
I would imagine. And another thing I wonder too is, like, when it comes to the sequences that Ghostface is in, or where he's speaking, is in instances where it's multiple Ghostfaces, and in the previous movie it was, and we'll go ahead and confirm, in this movie you have multiple Ghostfaces. Do you have which character is Ghostface at that time cited in the script, or does Ghostface just sort of remain his own singular entity?
We always have a running sort of theory of who's behind the mask when we're designing like the architecture of the story. But I think for us, one of the things that we've tried to do is really just make Ghostface their own character. That we talk a lot about how, regardless of who you are, when you put on that mask and that robe, you are imbued with something other, right? And it's not obviously full superhero language, but the idea that there is 6 movies in, there have been so many killers that have worn that costume, that when you put it on, you just become, it's almost like this thing that kind of possesses the person who's wearing it. And I think it's one of the reasons why Ghostface is a really specific character as a slasher, right? Like it feels like a Freddy or like a Jason, or, like there's just something like a Michael Myers, that there's something very distinct about Ghostface, regardless of who's under the mask. And I think that allows us to have a little bit more fun with the rules of how Ghostface moves, how strong Ghostface is. It allows for things to be, but while still being grounded and scary. And that for us is like building on that foundation. Feels like it just allows you to have the most fun possible, which at the end of the day is our goal, is to just make something that's crazy and fun.
Well, it is. I've already watched it like twice. I already watched it once this morning before the interview. I watched it last night. Okay, so touching on that a little bit, I'm going to try to avoid spoiling too much about the intro, but the intro of Scream 7, the beginning, sort of that lengthy sequence, is like one of my favorite things in the whole franchise. And I have a very specific question. So after that first kill, there is that lull moment where you wait and you're like, and as a fan, you're waiting for that slash, you're waiting for the title card, and there's this moment and you realize it's not happening. I want to ask about that moment. Is that something that you guys had to like sit down and like discuss, like how many seconds should it be before the audience realizes like, oh, there's more to this?
Oh yeah, that was that. So our process with Jamie and Guy, the writers, is they don't tell us anything. And then they give us the script.
Okay.
And then so we can have that really honest experience of like what it'll be like to be an audience, and read in real time. And so all we knew about this one was that it was set in New York. And we got to that page, early, spoiler. And we were like, oh, and then when we were making it, we kept talking about it. It literally said on the page what you felt, which is, you see that iconic Ghostface slash to the screen, but we don't cut to the title card. And we were like, yes. And our big thing going into the making of it was like, let's live in that moment for as long as possible. Like just hear the breathing and the like, what's the reality of that moment if it doesn't cut to like a title card in a song or something? And it's just like, and have to deal with that. And so for us, that was really fun to ride that transition into what then the rest of the opening becomes.
It was a lot of fun. It was very like thrilling. And I also wondered if a little bit of a spoiler. Well, it's a spoiler. You open with Samara, and I was curious like if there was any hesitation in using her as like the 𝐒𝐶 character in this, because like now that means you can't use Samara like down the road or anywhere else.
I mean, always. Every time you cast somebody and you know that you're casting them to die, it's like, oh man, I know I'm gonna fall in love with working with you. It's just like part of the deal. It's one of the things you just sign up for when you make a Scream movie. Is that half of you are probably not going to be coming back for the sequel.
Laura Crane could have a sister. Just saying, not off the
twins. Yes,
that's a really good
twins.
Point.
We talk about twins all the time. Twins. Maybe David. Maybe Dewey has a twin. Maybe Laura has a twin.
I would be very excited about that. I understand, and I think it's interesting to hear you guys say that Guy and James kind of just like they just give you the script in there and you're like, so you get to go in blind. So regarding the future of the franchise, I don't have a specific question. Scream 7, is it going to happen? May it happen? Who knows? Probably or not. Who knows? But I do have a question for you guys, just I guess existentially regarding the future of the franchise and what your thoughts are on how Scream should or should not evolve in order to continue being that relevant satire of current culture, current horror, especially in a time where cinematically horror is changing quite a bit these days.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are on that.
I mean, my gut reaction is that there would be everything in the what it could do column and nothing in the what it can't do column. And I think that's kind of true for like all genre. Like, I think part of the reason we're having such a renaissance these last few years is because there's room for Scream. There's also room for Watcher and X and like Barbarian and all these movies that occupy vitally different like parts of horror can coexist under this umbrella. And I think it's a genre that really like the fandom is so strong. And I think, like I'm just looking behind you, I can tell that you're obviously a part of it. It's like, it's so exciting to go explore all those different corners of what horror is and what it can be. And I think at the end of the day, you have limitless possibilities. I mean, you could turn on Shudder at any given moment, have no idea what's on it, but you'll watch it and you'll be like, let's see what this is. And that's exciting. And that's like, I don't know. Yeah. So I think the short answer that I made really long is like no rules, like it, like whatever.
I love it. I think that's the best answer. Tyler, Matt, listen, I really appreciate you guys taking time today. Very excited that Scream 7 is 6. I was manifesting. Scream 6 is now on. Go watch it. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.